MCP servers, Model Context Protocol servers. I've talked about them quite a bit here on the channel, and I've showed you how to integrate them into your code editors, such as VS Code with GitHub Copilot. And the cool part about MCP servers is that it's a standardized protocol for basically providing additional context to the model through these different clients, such as Copilot inside of VS Code. Now, what that actually means is that you can integrate these different MCPs. So for example, I have Playwright and I have GitHub, for example, and through natural language, GitHub Copilot can decide to use these additional tools. So for example, with Playwright, I can in natural language have it test a different part of a website that I'm building out, and it will perform the actions for me. Or for GitHub, for example, I can provide different contexts and I can have it update issues, pull different issues, search for different issues or pull requests on any repository, ones that I'm not working in, for example. I can have it perform those actions like creating the issues or creating a pull request or closing a pull request or doing a bunch of different things like that, which is really nice, all from my natural language if I give it permission. So the question is, it's great to put these in my sort of setup, but how to actually build my own. The cool part about MCP, which is that it's a standardized protocol for providing this context to the models, right? So MCP, it's in the name, which is really cool, that you can build your own. So imagine any different API or different logic that you have, you can expose it through an MCP server that you can then deploy to like Docker or to a remote server, for example, or run on your local machine. And you can distribute that to anybody, basically, which is really, really cool. And then they can use it. So what I want to do today is show you how to build a real MCP server with C# from scratch using only VS Code. And that's it. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so if you haven't read yet, check out the blog from Mike and Maria on the official Microsoft for Developers blog talking about the new C# SDK. It walks you through what it is, why you might want to use it, and sort of that explanation of what even MCP is. So if you're very interested in that, check that out there. That will link you over to the official C# SDK, which we're going to take a look at what we're going to use today, which is a NuGet package that you can go ahead and install. And then also, if you're very, very interested in actually not just deploying them locally like we're going to do today, you can also check out the Apps on Azure blog, where the Azure Functions team just released a way to actually build MCPs and deploy them with Azure Functions. So you can use this server sent events, or SSE, as you'll see it in multiple places. So that's pretty cool. But we're going to use the MCP C# SDK. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm over here inside of VS Code. I'm going to create a brand new project over here. And it is just going to be a console app. And let me go ahead and put it inside my GitHub folder. Perfect. And I'm going to call it Fancy MCP. Anything you want to call it, basically, is the project name. Solution folder, and I'm going to put it in there. Perfect. Okay. So this is just a console application, but we will need to install a few NuGet packages. So the first thing I'm going to do over here in my settings is I'm going to make sure that I have this include pre-release packages here, because this is a pre-release here inside of the MCP support. So I'm just going to click that there. So I'm going to right click and say add NuGet package, and I'm going to add in the model context protocol here. There it is. There's a bunch of different ones. I'm just going to use the first one here. Boop. And then I'm going to use the latest pre-release NuGet. So they're releasing NuGets like all the time. So let's do that. All right. Now we have some packages. I'm going to add another NuGet package, which is going to be the Microsoft.extensions.hosting, because that's how it's going to actually host these here. So I'm going to add that. And I'm just going to add the latest stable, because this is a .NET 9 console application. And then I'm going to add one more NuGet package, because I am going to use system.text.json as well. So let's go ahead and add that in there too. That one's not required, but if you're doing any JSON stuff, we're going to use that there. Okay, so we just have a console hello world, nothing fancy. So what we want to do is actually go over into the C# SDK GitHub repo, and it's going to show you down here getting started server. The one thing I want to point out is that with this SDK, you can also create a client. So a client, for example, would be VS Code, for example, in this case, and you can actually pull in MCP servers and use them, which is really cool. So here it's going to show you like you need these different packages. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the information here. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it in, because this is basically, if it was a template, then this is what it would be. Now, in fact, I believe that the community has actually built a template, so you can actually pull those. If I can find it, I'll put it into the show notes as well. But let's walk through this really quick. Super simple. We have a few using statements for hosting, the dependency injection, and then this model context protocol server. Here, that hosting allows us to create this application builder, and then that allows us to use like logging, for example, here, or add these services. Here, when we build up our services, we have our MCP server support, we have our standard IO server transport, so standard in, standard out for communication, how it's communicating with the server, and then tools from the assembly. So basically what this is saying is like, hey, given this assembly, go find specifically the different tools that are available. So down here, what we can see is that the default sort of template that they give you gives you a tool. So these tool types are what are exposed to MCP tools. So that's how it's going to group a bunch of them together in a list. So here we have the MCP server tool type, and then we have echo tool. So this would be an echo tool that's exposed, and you can have multiple tools inside of it. So this attribute, the MCP server tool, is what is basically telling it that, hey, this is a method that should be considered to be called. In this case, this is an echo server. So this is going to say, I can say hello from C#, and then echo it back, for example, there. And it's going to echo back the message from the client. Now, this description is very important. These descriptions are what specifically the tools are looking at when it's trying to figure out what to call. So here, for example, if I go in, maybe we'll create another one. So this is going to be reverse. We can have it create one that returns the length of the message, for example. So we can create these different ones here. So Copilot's going to just create a bunch of stuff for me. And we give it a different one back. So it reverses the message. So I could say echoes back the message in reverse. Just kind of give it that context there. And then returns the length of the message. Perfect. Okay, cool. So we have a few different tools here. That's looking good. At this point, our actual MCP server is like done, right? So if I just go and like build it, like it's really just that amount of code. What I'm doing is just saying, hey, go find these tool types and go find these specific tools inside of it. So I'll have 3 different ones exposed, which is really, really cool. So I have all those in there, which is kind of amazing, to be honest with you. So now we need to actually go ahead and like pull it in. So if I go into this agent mode, we can see I don't have any tools configured here. So we're going to need to go ahead and do that next. So what I want to do is go in, I'm going to go into my folder here, and I'm going to create a new root folder and call it .vs code. You might already have one if it created one for you, but I'm going to create a new file too called mcp.json. You can configure MCP servers system-wide, but also in a specific project. So let me go ahead and hit add server. And here, this is where it's going to say, you know, standard IO for it, npm package, pip, Docker image, et cetera, et cetera. So here I'm just going to do a standard here. I'm going to say .NET run is the command. I'm going to say fancy MCP as the name, and then it gives me it here. Now I do need to configure this as well, because we can see there's an error, it doesn't know what to run. So we're going to say -- project here, and then I'm going to give it a directory. So I'm going to go in, and on the actual CS proj, I'm going to copy the path here, just paste that in, just like that. Perfect. So again, that's all I'm doing is I'm just going to point it locally here, and then I'm going to hit restart. Oh, and what I probably need to do actually is say .NET correct. So they're .NET run, and then I can hit restart, and now it's going to be starting. Okay, perfect. So, all right. So .NET run is the command, projects. There's a list of arguments that are being passed in, and I kind of showed that there. Now, if you're paying attention over here, actually, you'll see that I have now an MCP server with 3 different commands here. Now, you don't have to use VS Code to debug this. There's some NPM packages and Explorer tools that you can use, but I don't know, it's here, so I'm going to use it, which is nice. So now I have reverse, echo, and length. So I could say, get me the length of the following message, and I'll say the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, just like that. Now you can use any model, of course. I'll just use GPT-4o, and then I'm in agent mode and I'm going to hit go. Now what's going to happen here is going to take a look and say, hey, what can you run? And what's fascinating here is it has basically parsed this as well. It's just the power of MCP. Is like, it's not just passing this entire context, it's running this and it's saying, okay, what are they actually asking me to do? So they're asking me for the length of this string, and then it's going to go ahead and run this command. So I'm going to hit continue here, and it's going to return. Now we'll also see that it says 45 characters and it's formatted it nicely. And then I can say, can you reverse that string? Question mark. So here, for example, now it's going to send it out and it's going to run reverse on it. And it's going to use the history too of everything that I sent and now reverse that string as well coming back, right? So now we can see everything that's coming back, which is really, really cool. So we get the length, we get the reversal here, everything like that. So I'm just going to stop that here. And now let's go ahead and build something a little bit more real, okay? So what we're going to do is we have sort of these nice ones here. It's super simple. You know, if that's all you were doing, that's great. But let's go ahead and, I don't know, let's delete all these. Let's just get them out of here for now. And let's go ahead and see how we would actually build some tools. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to add a new file, and I'm going to add a new class. I'm going to call it monkey tools. All right. And then I'm going to add a new file, and I'm going to add another class. I'd be like monkey service. And most often you have an actual HTTP a REST API, GraphQL API out into the world that you might want to call, for example. So in my case, I actually do have something like that. So this monkey service, I'm going to paste in here. And I'm also going to paste in a few using statements up top and just kind of like go through it. So this is just code that is not being necessarily used by the MCP server, but it's code that I'm going to use. So let's walk through this really quick. This actually comes from my .NET MAUI tutorial, which has a monkey service, but this is like an HTTP client. I could obviously inject this, if I wanted to. I'm just going to copy and paste the code. But here, for example, this is calling a different REST backend, in this case, just a getter. So I have a list of monkeys. It gets the monkeys. It goes and gets them asynchronously from the server. It initializes them, deserializes that data over here. It also has a method for me to call to say get monkeys, for example. Now, what's cool about that is that this is just sort of standard business logic that you might have already inside of your existing application, or you might already have different APIs or different clients, and you might just have this code already that you can share easily enough, which is really cool. So that's all that code is doing here, and I just wanted to put it into a reusable state, which is nice. So in my program, I'm going to go ahead and register that here. So I'm going to say builder.servers, add monkey service, and let's go ahead and add the namespace here. So this should be my fancy MCP. Perfect. I'll find it there. Cool. So that's going to register it so I can actually inject that into my tools. So that's all that's doing there is putting that there. So let's go ahead and open up our monkey tools. So again, this is just blank here, so nothing too fancy. So let's go ahead and give it some ways. So what we want to do is basically expose this first and foremost. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say MCP server tool type. There we go. So that's a tool type there. Awesome. Let's do a public static async task of string. And I'm going to say get monkey list. That looks good here. Now here, instead of just joining this line, just let's do a JSON serializer here. There we go. Dot serialize. Let's say monkeys. Perfect. Cool. There we go. Perfect. And then we're going to expose this here, and we're going to say that this is a MCP server tool. And then I'm going to say description, and I'm going to say get list of monkeys. Perfect. So this is super simple. I'm just returning some JSON back to it. it may automatically figure out how to serialize and deserialize the JSON. But what's nice is that I may want to format the JSON in a different way. So actually using the JSON serializer would allow me to get the data in a format that I want to return it back to the actual tool. So here, this is another one. So we could say, get monkey by name, for example. So that's kind of nice too. That would provide different information for just that monkey basically coming back. And that, yeah, looks pretty good actually. So this would take in the monkey, and then you can pass in parameters. So here, for example, it's passing in a string. So we'll see that in action. And then it's going to get the monkey by name based on that as well. So if we go in that monkey service, we can see down here, we have that get that monkey by name, which is nice. And it's going to return it automatically. So perfect. Okay, cool. With that set up, let's go back over here and let's go ahead and start it up. I'm going to restart this server here. And now we're going to have two tools that are here. And if we take a look now by pulling up GitHub Copilot, we'll see we have two tools. We have get monkey list and get monkey by name. So let me just do this. And I'm just going to do a new chat here. Perfect. I'll say, get me a list of monkeys and display them in a table for easy reading here. Cool. So it's going to say, yeah, get monkey list. It knows it needs to do this. It's saying it specifically, it's not passing any different things into it. So it's going to say get monkey list. And in this case, it's going to say here's a table displaying a list of monkeys and their details. And it's going to go ahead and put them out here for me. So I can see them all come in real time, which is really cool. So if I was querying different data and I wanted to have it visualize different data for me that were coming in, I could go ahead and have it pull that information down, which is nice. And then, for example, I could say, get me information about a baboon monkey. There we go. So now in this case, it's calling the get monkeys by name again, because it has that information. It's passing the name into it, and now it's going to run that back. So that's really cool. Now it's going to visualize it different here, which is nice. Now, one thing is that if you do have images or things like that, we can see that's not actually displaying them because there's, for privacy concerns. So it actually will link to them. But now what's kind of cool is I could say, what would a XAML page for .NET MAUI look like for a specific monkey based on this data using data binding ? So now, for example, I can kind of like mock out what I think it may look like. And this is kind of cool. It's going to give me information. So this is nice, a way of basically providing and talking back and forth to the agent that can call into these tools. And it has the history here of everything that we need. So that is like really, really cool because in just a few minutes, we've, for all intents and purposes, created our full MCP server, and like we're ready to deploy it out into the world, which is super duper rad. And the next part is that .NET makes it actually super easy to do that as well. So we have our tools, and maybe you want to use it, for example. So I'm going to go into my CS proj, and I'm going to add a property group here, and I'm going to walk through this for you really quick. So there's a few things that are super nice about this is that with .NET, it makes it crazy easy to come in and enable container support, and then also to provide information to make really small container images and different runtime identifiers. So for example, here we have enable container SDK support. So that is set to true, super simple. The container repository. So this is mine. So James Montemagno, and then I'm going to say monkey MCP2 because I already have one. And then here's container families. So there's a bunch of different container families, and Alpine are like the really super small ones for the .NET family that you can use. Now, when you're doing runtime identifiers, this is saying what different architectures do I want to bundle up, basically. So x86 and an ARM64. So here I'm on an ARM64 machine on my Mac Mini or on my Project Volterra, where I might want an x64 build on my Windows machine, for example, to run those in Docker. So just with that, like we're basically ready to go. So if I open a new terminal window down here, it's like extremely easy to just start bundling these up. So I could say .NET publish here, and I'll say dash T publish container. Cool. And what we'll see is that we have our fancy MCP here, and this is now published both a Linux x64 and ARM64 here. And if I pull up my here, my Docker desktop, we should be able to see that here. Yeah, here we go. We have the Monkey MCP 2 image down here, which is really nice, just pulling up right here inside of it. So I could run that locally if I wanted to, and I just have it here, which is really cool. And now I have it ready to go. Now, if I want to publish this, I could, publish them together, but actually with the .NET command, you can actually now just do -p and then container registry, and I can set that equal to docker.io. As long as I'm logged into Docker, this will now take it and it will publish this to the Docker registry that I have. So this will go ahead and publish that out into Docker.io, so I can then pull those down automatically onto my machine, which is kind of super crazy cool. So here, this is now going to take it, publish it from my machine up into Docker. And it's going to publish both an ARM 64 and an x64 build directly out there, which is pretty rad. So if I go over into my Docker Hub, for example, we can see that I have, here it is, my Monkey MCP and my Monkey MCP 2 over here, and it was published less than a minute ago. And if I tap on it, we can see that we have the latest tag and Linux and ARM. So both of them are in there, which is super cool. So I can now come back over. So let's go here over into my app, and let's go ahead and just remove that, fancy one there. So I'm just going to remove that and save it. So now we have 0 tools. So 0 tools happen in there, which is good. And now let's actually just use it. So the first thing I want to show you is I can go into my images here, and we can just delete. Let's delete a bunch of stuff. Let's delete all the things. Get back some space on our machine. Let's actually just delete this. Cool. Delete it. Images. Let's delete that too. Just clear it all out, right? Get out of here. So clear. So let's go ahead and say add server. And now I'm going to say Docker image, and I'm going to paste that in. And now it's going to ask me, am I allowed to install this? I'll say yes, Monkey MCP server 2. And now what it does is it will go and it says, here's Docker command. It's going to run, and specifically the Monkey MCP 2 server, which is really cool. And now if I come back into Docker, oh, there it is. It's running on my machine. It's super small. Here's my container running, which is rad. And now I have those same exact 2 right there. And there you go. In no time at all, we've spun up a brand new MCP server, tested it locally on our machine. We not only just used a sample sort of echo server, but what we also did is we created a real one, calling a real API to download a bunch of data and get it. And then I could also perform actions on it, add new monkeys, do a bunch of things too. And then we tested it on our local machine inside of VS Code. And then finally, we actually containerized it up and we sent it off into Docker. Now you can run these in many ways, right? So you could actually publish these as a global tool, for example. You could run it locally on your machine. And there's obviously, like I showed you, ways of running it and integrating them into Azure Functions, for example, and then using them to expose remote server sent events as well. So it's really, really easy to do. So what I want you to think about is, what are the things that you're using at your business every single day, different APIs that you've built, and how could you maybe pull that down and stay in the flow? Now, I configure a lot of different MCP servers, ones for actually development and other ones also for not. Because often if I'm inside of VS Code, it's really nice to actually just have a chat and not have to pull up different tools if I want to get information. So that's how I'm using MCP servers every single day. And I'm excited to see how they sort of flourish into different tools that we end up using. Anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I know that there's going to be tons of more MCP stuff. In fact, I know there's going to be tons of stuff at Build. So if you haven't registered for Build, definitely check it out. I'm going to be there. I'm super excited about it. So I'll put links to all this information, all the release notes to my Monkey MCP server, to the blog post I did walking through this exactly, and to all the announcements, and to the GitHub repo itself. So if you have any questions, leave it in the show notes and comments below. I'd really appreciate it if you give this a thumbs up, share it with a friend if you liked it, if you found it helpful. jam that like button, hit subscribe, do all the things. That's going to do it for this one. So until next time, James, thanks for watching.